Also worth mentioning as well, if you do have any questions for the panelists, there is a Q&A box that you can pop those into, or the chat. Please don't unmute yourself because there is quite a lot of people on this call. So what I will do is I will just take any questions for the panelists and the speakers today from the Q&A or the chat box. So please do use those if you wish. Still a few people joining, so we'll just give it until 3 minutes past and then we'll get started. Okay, a very warm welcome to this evening's webinar. It's great to have so many people with us. This webinar is hosted by the Hull and East Yorkshire Career Hub and hosted by myself, Emma from Pathway CTM, and I'll do a quick intro into ourselves and myself in a little moment. But lovely to have so many of you join us this evening. I know there was a good few people who asked for recording as well, so we will share that after the session. So first of all, just a little bit of a welcome and introduction. So my name is Emma Curtis. I am the Career Hub Account Manager at Pathway CTM, and I'll be going into a little bit of detail around Pathway and what we do very shortly. But my journey is very similar to, I'm sure, many of your children that you're kind of on here to support. I really didn't know what I wanted to do whenever I left school, went to university, kind of thinking that was maybe the only option, and then ended up moving into the HR space. So I've spent many years on the employer focused side, working for employers such as PwC and Citibank, and then have recently come to work with the Pathway team to support from the other side, and hopefully to showcase that there is lots of options out there for your young people over the next kind of hour or so. So hopefully you will be able to see that as you go. And yes, I see, Amy, your message in the chat. Absolutely, we will share the slides as well. So who are Pathway CTM then? If you've never heard of us, Pathway CTM is a social enterprise. We were founded about 10 years ago, and our focus is really to support your child with their next steps after school. So the CTM in Pathway CTM stands for Careers Training and Mentoring, and that is really what we're passionate about. So we have a number of different services yourself, your child's teachers can get involved in. And the QR code attached to this slide is actually for your child to be able to sign up to our free program, which will give them lots of support. So you can see below what kind of things they'll get access to. So we run a lot of events, both physical and virtual. Across the UK. We ran 2 big events this week in Birmingham and London for National Apprenticeship Week, which we live streamed as well. We have access to lots of online resources that they can access for employability skills to help them with that next step. Work experience opportunities with lots of different employers across the UK. And also large multi-brand events, similar to the ones that we held this week for National Apprenticeship Week, which are physical and also streamed so that students all across the country can enjoy them. And probably the best bit, or the favourite bit from the student point of view, is competitions, prizes to win things, both kind of all the way from mentoring sessions to kind of work experience opportunities as well. So we would encourage, obviously, you to sign up your student, your child, to get involved with some of the things that we do at Pathway. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we have some really great employers on today to talk about apprenticeships with us. First of all, we're going to be speaking with Siemens, then BAE Systems, and then William Jackson Food Group. And as I said, if you do have any questions while they're speaking, then please do pop them either in the chat or the Q&A, and I will come to them and ask them at the end of their sections. But to kick off, I'm going to pass over to Chris from Siemens. You're on mute, Chris.
Thank you, Emma. Sorry about
that. No problem.
Yeah, so we're the new people in town. We're currently setting up a Ghoul Rail Village over in Goole, creating 700 technical jobs. And we'll have plenty more engineering, logistics, administrative, and support positions around the site. On the site already, we started with our office block, which went operational in 2022. We had our first factory go live last Easter. We're about to start manufacturing of the train you can see there in next month in Goole itself. And I'm currently in Vienna watching those being built as well. We've got a warehouse going up right now, and we've got planning applications in for 2 more manufacturing facilities. You want to go next slide, Emma? This year, we've started to ramp up our apprentices. It's quite a long process. These are for August starts, and we're looking at 18 and a mix of level 3 and 4 positions across our major employment areas. And I'll talk about something like our major employment areas mainly, but we're looking for 13 mechanical fitters, 3 people to work in logistics and warehousing, and 2 general business administration apprentices. It's a 3-year apprenticeship scheme. Siemens is the provider. We have our own education and skills team who are Ofsted registered. We work with local colleges, and I'm sure Jay can talk about her college in a moment. But like all apprentices these days, there's extensive practical shop floor learning to get you your hand skills in that. Something unique from my experience about Siemens is if you're a successful apprentice, then you rotate into a permanent position at the end of your apprenticeship. You don't have to apply for a role. It's an automatic process for anyone who is successful. You want to do the next one, please, Emma? But even though we're not gone live, we have been running our apprenticeship scheme now since 2020. We took our first 12 in, so they'd be ready for start of production, and they've all been successful. We had a little bit of a gap at the end of the apprenticeship, so we put majority of them through the HNC as a little boost to their level 3 apprenticeship. 9 have moved into permanent roles, and we've recruited a few more in between who are continuing to study, of which one is Jade. Jade?
Good afternoon. So I'm a first-year apprentice. I study 1 day a week at Chesterfield College. I have 1 day allocated to do assignment work, and then the rest of the week I work on the shop floor. So I've been doing work placement in traction drive. So in my intake, there's 2 of us on our level 3 and 1 of us is on our level 4 due to having previous knowledge from a different company. So my GCSE levels, I achieved B's to C's, which is equivalent of 5 and 6s. I studied at Bishop Burton College doing public services. So as it says on there, I did previously work in the Navy, but I wasn't going in the direction I wanted to, so I changed my job. This made me look at an apprenticeship. So I didn't have to worry about getting a student loan, paying for the education, and still earning money while I learn. I'm a visual learner, so this is like a lot better than just doing academical studies. So far through my apprenticeship, I've enjoyed getting to work in the different departments, learning how each section work together and showing a large picture, as well as getting work experience in traction drive in the other companies within Siemens. So my next steps within the company would be hopefully passing my level 3 and then moving on to my level 4. Thank you.
The Siemens isn't only in Goole, though. We are a global and national company. We have some nearby locations in York and in Leeds. Plus, in the office block, we have remote teams working out there. So for some more general apprentices, less technical opportunities there. So it's important if you're interested in any of our apprentices that you register with our careers website to get the latest news and a weekly role email sent out to you as well.
Thank you so much, Chris and Jade. That was really useful. And there's no questions in the chat at the moment, Jade, but I was just wondering if you could maybe touch a bit on, I guess, your process for going for the apprenticeship, what the application process was like, and maybe any kind of hints and tips for parents to support their children through it.
So I set up a LinkedIn page, and that's where I got the advertisement for the job. So from this, I did an online test. After completion of that, I was contacted to come for an interview. The interview was actually like really welcoming and friendly. So we all sat in a room, got to know each other. We all did. I spoke to the manager, going over our CVs, got asked questions, and then did more of like a group practical task. Which was, yeah, I enjoyed it. And then after that, we were communicated whether we'd got the job or not.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jade. And I guess, Chris, from your perspective, is there any kind of advice you might give to parents around maybe supporting their students with applications?
I think it's important to meet the academic requirements. Obviously, for level 4, that's more important, but it's very important that the kids want to come and work for Siemens and have something in their lives that represents that. So hobbies, clubs, any kind of thing that what our apprentice in the year before, Jade, she was working on boats, doing the engines and fixing bits and bobs. And it's really good. The littlest thing like fixing your bike at weekends can show that interest in mechanical aptitude. And the same for other roles as well. Just a little hook that's going to leave a little message or a little like a memory in the recruiter's mind at the end of the interview, which makes you stand out from other people. But really wanting it is being keen about Siemens is what we were looking for.
Great, thank you. And a few comments in the chat. This is a really interesting one, I think, from Shawnee. She says that her son is in year 10 at the moment, and he's 16 next year and planning to leave school. What age do kind of Siemens offer apprenticeships from? Is it 18, or do they have anything for lower, I guess, for 16 and up?
No, we're taking level 3s, which is school leavers.
Great.
Level 4 is probably college leavers, and that's what we're targeting for. But that's the minimum age, isn't it? So there's no real maximum age these days. But if you're, we went to Google Academy the other day and we had a chat with lots of year 10 people, because year 10 people are our next year intake. So we're trying to give them advice on how they can prepare over the next 12 months to be suitable for our recruitment process.
Great, so that's good news. And Claire, I can see the QR code's not working. That's not a problem. What I'll do is I'll send out the direct link to register after the session so that all parents have that as well. Thank you both so much for your time there, and it was really useful. And I think we've got a lot of good questions. One more question, I think, from Nicola. Chris, just before we let you go back into the background there, she just said, "Are there any apprenticeships in Hull at the wind turbine site for Siemens, or where would they be based?"
Yeah, unfortunately, Siemens Gamesa is no longer part of Siemens. It's left us, so I wouldn't be able to answer that. But knowing how committed Siemens Gamesa are to the area, I'm sure they would have. They're an expanding site, but unfortunately, they're no longer part of Siemens.
Yeah.
Siemens, they're now part of a separate entity.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to pass over to the BAE Systems team. So James, if you want to kick off.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So a bit about BAE Systems before we start. So obviously, those probably aware, we are obviously a global defence supplier. We've got various positions in the market, basically from under the sea, actually through into space now, and a growing position within cyber security, particularly through our defence intelligence business. If we look globally, we've got about 93,000 employees over 40 countries, with customers in around 80 countries. So if I look more locally here at Brough, then actually we've got a site that actually dates back over 100 years. We can trace back the history back to when it was founded as Blackburn Aircraft in 1916. So we're predominantly associated with the air business, so basically anything to do with sort of military aircraft. But we also have a growing presence from our maritime business, particularly supporting some of the future submarine programs, particularly Dreadnought, which is the replacement for the UK's nuclear deterrent. So we try and create a very inclusive environment here. We fully are inclusive and very diverse, and that supportive environment is wrapped around all those people, so everyone can feel welcome here. We do a lot for our local communities as well through various local community investment, etc., which again is something that we're really proud of. And if we look through to something that everybody's really concerned about now, obviously the environmental impact, then we have committed as a business to be carbon net neutral by 2030 within our operations and 2050 in our entire supply chain. Next slide, please. So if I look at our apprenticeship schemes, and I guess similar to Siemens really. So if I look across the UK, then we're currently recruiting around about 1,400 apprentices throughout our various businesses within the UK. We have lots and lots of different schemes. The ones that you see on the board there are only associated with what we've got currently here at Brough. Because we are predominantly now just an engineering site. But if you were interested in other careers within BAE Systems, such as project management, project controls, it could be in finance. In fact, we've even started this year, first time actually announced this week, we actually now do a Space One through Portsmouth University. Again, a degree apprenticeship scheme. So there's lots and lots of different things. If you did want to go out of area, then please visit the main BAE Systems site, and all the different schemes are on there. But if I say going back to those particular ones here in Brough, then we really offer two different types of engineering degree apprenticeship schemes. So sorry, we've got the degree apprenticeship schemes, and then we've got the technician scheme as well. So the degree schemes, we do three different ones. That's an aerospace one, a software one, and a digital technology solutions one, which is a new one we've introduced this year here at Brough. So that's really focusing on sort of data analytics and sort of artificial intelligence, which is that sort of new up and coming resource that we're going to need in sort of 5 to 10 years time, as well as continuing on with the aerospace and software schemes. So as you can see there, they vary between a 4 and 5 year scheme. The entry criteria there are exactly the same for all those degree schemes across the company. So that's 5 GCSEs, A to C, including maths, English and science, and then 96 UCAS tariff points at the end. For anything sort of A-level based or HNCs, etc., count towards those points. The technician scheme, slightly less than that, because obviously not necessarily have done A-levels, etc. So that's just 5 GCSEs, A to C or equivalent, again, in those sort of STEM subjects. The structure of those apprenticeship schemes then, so once you actually come into the business, you do some initial training, and then the rest of it really is placements within the business. So we try and get you around all the different types of engineering discipline that we have here. So that might be placements within aerodynamics, it might be within structures, mission systems, integration, tech pubs, sort of through life support. Again, that sort of helps us to really see where your specialism is, and equally helps you then decide where you might want to come out at the end of your scheme. So we do day release into university, as you can see there. So that's generally how those schemes run for those years. Okay, next slide, please. So the timeline, so this is the same every year. So it doesn't matter if you're thinking about this year or next year, these are all the same. So we generally have open evenings. So we just held our last one actually a couple of weeks ago. So these are generally advertised in October to November. So again, via our main corporate website. Our application window is always 1st of November to the end of February. So again, if you are considering applying for this year, there is still time to get that application in before the end of February. The application process itself, so you apply online, and then provided you meet those sort of initial criteria, you'll get a link back to do some online tests, which you must do actually within 7 days of getting that email. There's then some further online assessments that take place through a system called HireView, which will actually include sort of an automated type interview, which you get 3 attempts to be able to answer certain questions. That then gets scored, and then obviously from that we will then down select for a physical face-to-face interview, which we've introduced back this year. So again, you'll be invited to come to Brough, see some of the facility, and then have those face-to-face interviews. From that, we will then select those successful candidates. Conditional offers will go out, and we'll also start the security clearance process. So you get your results in August, and hopefully, obviously, you get what you wanted. Those formal offers are then made, and then you would start your career with us in September. Next slide, please. So in terms of reward and benefits, you'd like to think we offer fairly competitive salaries for our apprentices. So again, it depends which scheme you're on, from sort of the lower ones, sort of the technicians, up to the degree ones. They're at 29,000. So that's a starting salary, which again are reviewed every year in line with the rest of the schemes. We like to think we create really strong networks here. So we've currently got probably about 80 apprentices on the various schemes in various years here with us. So that, again, that's quite a strong network within itself. You know, we do things like bowling nights, etc., to try and get everyone together to encourage those different schemes to talk to each other, and really to actually to integrate much better within the workforce that we've got here. You know, they are really part of the workforce doing real project work. That work-life balance, you know, there's generous holiday package. We do flexible working and hybrid working now, like most places. So sometimes, you know, you'll be on site working collaboratively within teams, or it might be you can do some of it from home, you know, in addition to going to university. The personal development, so the extra stuff that we encourage people to do, and you'll see like Lorna and Tegan here supporting this tonight. So again, you know, through that STEM ambassadors network, we do a lot with the local community, careers fairs, etc., this type of thing. Outward Bound is also part of our apprenticeship program. So again, you know, you spend about a week out and Outward Bound, helping with that sort of teamwork, collaborative development. And equally, that career development doesn't stop with the apprenticeship. So throughout all of that, you know, we encourage people to further themselves, and the company will support further in higher education again after you've qualified from that. And there really are true global prospects. There's even the potential for placements abroad as part of those apprenticeships, even based here at Brough. But even then, when you come out of your schemes, you know, because we are a global project, you know, I've got people out in Japan, Italy, you know, India, everywhere you could really think around the world. There is that potential. Next slide, please. So enough of me. I thought I might hear from Lorna and Tegan about what it's like to be on the schemes.
So hi, I'm Lorna. I'm a fourth year EDAS apprentice. I'm in my final placement just before I go into my two-year out of time placement. So as James has already said, the course is kind of structured where we start off doing a bit of training, which was for us the first 9 months, and then I went into 6 5-month placements, of which I'm in my last one, and then we finish off the course with a 2-year placement in our chosen discipline. So for my chosen discipline, I've selected structures, so I'm aiming to be a structures engineer hopefully by the end of it. I currently work on, within that discipline, model analysis, done through various different CAD softwares and contained within Excel documentation. And as part of this, we're going to take quite a lot of loading and forces evaluation. So prior to my time at BAE, I did some work experience with Rolls-Royce up in Newcastle, Airbus down in Bristol, and then Ideal Boilers on National Ave in Hull. Yeah, they were both aerospace bar the last one, which was quite insightful prior to proceeding with a career in aerospace. Good bit of work experience. I also, throughout my school career, partook in the Green Power Kit Car project, which is a battery-powered car, which, as you can see in the photo on the right, we build from a kit that was delivered in many, many boxes. And then we raced it, which we did the whole race back in 2016, and we won that, so did pretty well. So after that, I did my A-levels in chemistry, maths, and English language, just to fulfill that STEM criteria for engineering. Didn't quite get on with physics, so I switched to chemistry, which is still applicable for most apprenticeships, but not necessarily uni, which was quite an upside for myself. Did English language, just as a fun one, really. And yeah, I applied for university as well as apprenticeships, more because I was forced to apply to uni than anything else, but well. And then selected to do aerospace through these apprenticeships. Like I said, it was quite difficult to get into aerospace through uni, so I applied for industrial design for that instead. So now within BAE, I guess my experience has been lots of learning, not in like a overpowering way. It's really good. Every day is a learning curve, quite humbling. And placements in a variety of business areas, including aerodynamics, structures, a bit of design as well, which is quite good, getting a bit of a insight into where I might want to end up. And you get so much support from your colleagues, so much so that they sometimes get a little bit annoyed when you ask loads of questions, but not actually annoyed. I'm one of those. And also alongside that, the teams and general site support you with lots of visits and trips. We go over some other sites, and we also got to go down to Coningsby to go to the family day, which was where I took this lovely picture of an F-35. Yeah, it was pretty good. And that's all from me. Thank you.
I'm Tegan. I'm a third year engineering degree apprentice on the aerospace scheme, so I'm a little bit earlier on in my career than Lorna is. I'm in my fourth placement at the moment, so I've still got 2 more to go, so I'm kind of still working out where I want to end up, but I'm currently also in structures. I've done other placements like airworthiness, where you're focusing on safety, the safety of the aircraft and that type of thing. So again, structures, you're doing calculations, you're running models, which is different to the work that I've done in previous placements. So it's required quite a bit of learning to kind of understand what software they're using, but the team supports you throughout all of that and kind of takes you through step by step what you need to do. So you don't feel completely overwhelmed when they give you some software to run, because they take you through step by step everything you need to do. So before starting the apprenticeship, I did 2 rotary technology tournaments during school, which are like county tournaments with different schools all come together, and they essentially give you a tray of materials and a brief and say, go solve this problem for us, which was quite good fun. I think that was kind of where I was like, oh, I like this engineering stuff. And then I did an engineering GCSE as well, and then I was also kind of doing that, thinking, oh, this is really interesting, this is what I want to do. Where I'm from, they didn't offer engineering as an A-level, so I did maths, further maths and physics instead, because I really liked maths, and physics was also quite mathsy as well. So that's what I did, and it also fit STEM requirements for engineering going after it. So now I applied for an apprenticeship. For me, I knew I didn't want to do full-time uni, because I wanted to kind of get that hands-on. I didn't really know whereabouts I wanted to end up in aerospace engineering. I just knew that I really liked engineering, and the aerospace aspect of it really fascinated me. So I knew that by doing the apprenticeship and rotating around the departments, I could kind of work out, well, what type of aerospace engineer am I? Because it's a very big category. Whether I was a structures engineer, was I an aerodynamicist, what type of engineer was I going to be? I knew that I wouldn't be able to find that out necessarily directly through uni. I wanted to be able to try the work myself. Like I said previously, when I mentioned that where I was from, they didn't do engineering, I relocated for the apprenticeship, so I'm not actually from here originally, but you've got a cohort of apprentices, so you all kind of get on really well, so it made the relocation part so much easier. The fact that you had loads of other people starting at a new company, doing a new thing all at the same time. My experience would be so far, did initial training at the AMA facility over at Humberside Airport, which I kind of describe as a crash course into aerospace, because they teach you everything you need to know about aircraft, and then some more things that you didn't realise about aircraft they teach you then as well. And then yes, started rotating around my placements, which I've really enjoyed doing, being able to actually do work and then see my work getting used, which I didn't necessarily realise that this early on. You'd see documents you've written and that type of thing. You'd then see them as you move around later departments and actually see your name on it, which was quite a nice moment the first time I realised that someone gave you my document and asked had I seen it before. Stretch projects, alongside our placement tasks, I've been doing stretch projects, so they're not related to my placement work, but they're different tasks, and I'm learning different skills that I'm not necessarily learning in my placement. So I'm learning more about business. I'm learning about project management and that type of thing through my stretch task to kind of help my engineering knowledge. And I'm also a STEM ambassador and going into schools and talking about apprenticeships and that type of thing. And I went to Coningsby Families Day, which was good fun, watching all the aircraft, especially some of the ones that you've worked on at some point. So that's kind of me.
Great, thank you so much for all of you, all three of you. I guess for Tegan and Lorna, we don't have any questions in the chat, but I guess I'm just curious around your journey into apprenticeships and maybe if you have any kind of, words of guidance or support for parents who are maybe supporting their students through that journey. What kind of things would you recommend maybe? Because as you both alluded to, university is maybe the automatic choice for some people. So I guess what kind of support do you think they could help with for their children?
A good question. For me, at the time, my school very much pushed university, and I was kind of one of them who knew degree apprenticeships were a thing. So I wanted to do that because I got the best of both worlds, essentially. So from a parent's point of view, they did some research as well from their end because they didn't really know what degree apprenticeships were as well. And obviously I did my own research, found where I wanted to go, but kind of understand a little bit what they actually are and then just kind of support them along the way. And yeah, that's what my parents did and that's what I recommend.
Yeah, my mum was on Indeed quite a lot. Look at this is nice. This looks good. Do this. But yeah, I suppose from a parent's perspective, it is that keenness that you want, kind of not pushing your child towards it, because I think you get that so much from school with university. I mean, especially I went to Wyke, so the push for going towards university when I was there was pretty heartfelt. But when I said I wanted to do an apprenticeship, they're like, no, you've got to apply to uni as well. So they do have to have that in mind. Like, applying isn't the worst thing in the world, but that doesn't mean you can't do both. And I think as a parent as well, you'd have to kind of put that research in as well as them, because I think some kids just don't really know where to start. Whereas if you've been through that career process yourself, you've kind of got that little bit of background knowledge of how to research.
Great, that's really good advice. Yeah, great question there, or great comment from Shawnee as well, just saying that her son doesn't want to go to university, hoping for an apprenticeship, as I think it'll work so much better for him rather than college. And BIE sounds fantastic, great. And anyone who has put in kind of generic questions for all of our panelists into the chat, please do continue to do that throughout the session. I will ask them all at the end. Hopefully we'll have a bit of time. But thank you all for now. And now I'll pass on to our final employer. So Angela from William Jackson Food Group.
Hi, everyone. I always start my session by saying no one's ever heard of William Jackson Food Group. But I can confidently tell you, if you've ever been in the centre of Hull and you've ever been near the hospital or the infirmary, you've probably smelt our factory, our Jackson's Bakery. But we're part of a bigger group. We're family owned by the direct descendants from William Jackson. And we've got 4 great businesses in our group. So before I go into Jackson's and what we're here to talk about, just to give you an insight, Abel and Cole, they're an organic grocery. They distribute about 65,000 boxes each week direct to people's homes. So they're a grocery delivery service, all organic. Then we've got Wellix. Wellix supply high-end restaurants and hotels and catering facilities with really the finest ingredients. So they supply businesses local to us, such as the Pipe and Glass or the Star in the City or the Star at Sancton. And then we've got Belazoo. Belazoo are our Mediterranean ingredients company. So if you've ever liked olives and you've bought olives at Nando's or Pizza Express or had pesto at Pizza Express, that's our stuff that we've created. And then recently we bought Miso Tasty, and they're a Japanese ingredients company. So again, the Wagamama stuff, if you've ever been there, it's those ingredients. And then the bakery. So next slide, please. So the bakery, we've been around on site at the site in Derringham Street since 1907. On the left is our founding gentleman, Mr. William Jackson, who set up the company in 1851. So we're really quite an old established business in Hull. And if you are local to the Hull area, some of these pictures might resonate with you. That Grandways, that we built that store in Willoughby, and it's now known as Waitrose. So we were at the forefront of that retail shop. We actually sold all our shops in the early 2000s. So if you've been down Clough Road or Princess Ave, you may see the Sainsbury's locals, and look above and you might see some Jackson's branding. But the bakery is a massive site. It's completely locked in the centre of Hull. So probably about 5 years ago, we built this super duper new factory in Corby, which you can see the bottom left there. And between the site in Corby and the site in Hull, we make around 3 million loaves of bread a week, which just blows my mind because that's a heck of a lot of bread. Where does it all go? You're probably asking. We've got retail bread that you can see in the middle. So we've got the Jacksons of Yorkshire retail bread that you'll find in all the supermarkets. And we've recently launched our Tiger Loaf. We did that this week. There's a slight plug there. If you go into Morrison's, you'll find it. But the majority of our bread, about 70% of our production, goes into sandwiches that you'll find in Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, all of those retail to-go products. So you've more than likely, if you've ever bought a sandwich out of home, it's probably been our bread. I just want to cover what our values are, though, because I think that's important to know the type of company that we are. We have what's called our company values, and these are based around our values and our ethos of what our business is. And I think one of the important things to recognise is we're not owned by a massive company. Sorry, my fellow colleagues on the call. But we are a local employer, and you probably know people that have worked for us or have been part of our family. One of the things which I think is really important to recognise is that when we recruit younger people, we don't expect them to be the finished article. We know that actually we want them to be curious, be inquisitive, challenge, ask questions. But most importantly, we recognise that they're going to make mistakes. In fact, we all make mistakes. I am great at making mistakes, but we see that there are good mistakes and bad mistakes. And what do we mean by that? Bad mistakes, they're okay, but actually what's the learning from it? Because those good mistakes are things that actually you recognise that's a learning that you might need to do, or recognising that you need more training. So when we talk about no egos in our business, I think that's really important to recognise that we're an open and honest business that says we all make mistakes, but actually what do we learn from it? And it's really important that we care about our colleagues. We do so much for our colleagues, and depending if you know people, we do stuff in the community that we don't shout about because we don't feel we have to shout about it. We'd rather keep it quiet. We supply a lot of schools with our bread to help with breakfast clubs. We're doing some stuff at the moment with some chefs in schools. We do stuff like this. All our colleagues get a volunteering day, so we do quite a lot with other food charities and homeless charities. So we try and go the extra mile. And what does that mean, I guess, from you as a parent looking to your young person, is that we feel that we are a large family. And especially at the bakery, we've got people who've been there a long time. So they do put a loving, caring virtual arm around our children because we've all got to start somewhere, I guess. And actually, we find that if we have happy colleagues, then we'll have happy colleagues who want to stay and do the right thing and make the best out of the opportunity that's given to them. So what are our opportunities? Next slide. So we have quite a few direct entry routes. So we do take people directly into our production. We also take young people onto level 2, level 3 apprentice routes, such as in the office, into transport, into sales, into HR, and into finance. And we, at the moment, we're looking for a second cohort in our degree apprenticeship route. So we started this last year, and it's in conjunction with Sheffield Hallam University. And we've got 3 routes with Sheffield Hallam University. And these are for children who have at 18 plus don't want to go to university. So like we've already spoken about. So the 3 routes are supply chain. What we find is that no young person has aspirations to work into supply chain because they don't understand it. So sharing with them, actually, what does that mean? It's anything to do with sourcing the ingredients, buying the ingredients, or buying anything that we need to buy to make the factory a running operation, right through to how do we get it out the door and that transportation element. So anything from the farm to the fork, that's our value, our reasoning for doing supply chain. And that will see them working in transport, logistics, purchasing, and operations as well. That 3-year programme will give them a real insight into the different functions within supply chain to then hopefully give them some food for thought of what that future looks like. We then have a chartered manager apprenticeship. And again, that's a level 6, so a degree within managerial elements. And for that programme, we have placements in HR, finance and sales, and maybe marketing as well. And what we find is that actually people want to do a business management degree. This is actually far better because it's giving you hands-on experience in those functions. People know marketing, people know sales, people know finance, but they don't really know what it really means. So by doing that chartered manager degree apprenticeship, it gives you a real flavour for those different support functions that make up our business. We then have a level 6 in food science. Food science is for those people who are in our technical function, and that technical function makes sure that everything we produce is right for human consumption, basically. So they look at both our new product development, they look at our technical specifications, and they look at our recipes. They also get involved in our ingredient selection as well. So in that degree apprenticeship, they will have a real variety of experiences all within that food science remit. And then finally, we have a level 6 in accountancy. For this, we're looking for people who have a desire to want to go down the financial route. So they will spend their whole time in the finance function, starting at the purchase ledger, so paying invoices, right through to that management accountant process. Next slide. So I think I've covered what we have. So what are the things that we look for? Going back to our values, we look for people who are committed. We look for people who are excited about an opportunity. We look for people who are able to communicate. And that's really important for us to see. So our selection process is applying online, then completing some online tests, and then we do a selection event. We look for people who aren't the finished article, because you're not, because you've not even started your career. But we want you to have a bit of knowledge about our business to show that you can do some research on your own. We then look for people who have a little bit of a knowledge about that function that they're particularly interested in, and be able to articulate what it is about that function that has enabled them to have the choice to apply. We'll do a factory tour, and then we look at offer. So last year we had 2 people join us last year at the bakery, and we're looking for 4 for this year, all being well. So applications will be going live in the next couple of weeks. So my final slide has got a QR code on it, or it's got their URL, so you can apply directly through our website, which is williamjacksonfoodgroup.co.uk. And that's me. And sorry, I bounced around on my slides.
It's fine, Angela, no problem at all. And I know we don't have any questions in the chat at the moment, but if you do have any questions, wider questions for our panelists, then do feel free to pop them in now. And I guess just a question for Angela, wrapping up that section. You know, you talked a lot about different apprenticeship routes and I guess being able to support children into that. But do you have any kind of tips, I guess, for parents or for students wanting to go into that apprenticeship route and how to kind of make that decision between that and the university route?
So our application route, we look at CVs, obviously, and we're looking for young people who have got some great studies. So ideally, grade 5 or above in maths and English, and especially for our degree apprenticeship route, they need 96 UCAS points at least, ideally 112. I would say that an apprenticeship route is a really great way for them to get experience in a business whilst not having to go to university full time. So you don't get that student debt, but what you get is hands-on experience. However, it is not an easy ride. I spoke to our degree apprentices a couple of weeks ago, and they have assignments to do alongside going to university whilst also doing a full-time job. So they are quite busy. So they can't go out socialising as much as they potentially could at university. And they can't obviously take another part-time job because they're working full-time as well. So they need to have an ability to manage their time the most effectively they can. Obviously, they get time in work to do their studies, which equates to 1 day a week. However, they still will need to do some work in their own time. So it's not an easy ride if anyone thinks that degree apprenticeship is better in that respect.
Yeah, really good point, Angela. Thank you. And I've got some questions, I guess, from earlier in the chat, some for all of our panelists, some for a couple of different people. So I'm just going to go through those now. If you are burning to ask a question, then please do pop it in the chat and I will put it to our panelists now. One for you, Chris, around the level 3 engineerings at Siemens. So somebody was asking, are all the positions filled for this year's school leavers? And if so, when would next year's be looking at opening?
Unfortunately, we've got high demand for our roles right now, so we've rushed through our recruitment process this year, and we have offered them all out. We will start advertising next year's vacancies as the kids return to school, so that'll be around about August time. If we don't get enough candidates, we run the process longer. But we do have vacancies in the wider business, so perhaps our York and Leeds depots may still have some apprentice vacancies.
Great, thank you, Chris. And one for everyone then, so I'll go through everyone individually. Karen's asking if any of the businesses have anything, kind of work experience opportunities prior to apprenticeships. Is there any way that students can come in or hear a little bit more about what's going on? So I can start with Chris again, if you don't mind, on that piece.
I'm a bearer of bad news again, unfortunately. So at that time, we're still creating our factory, so it's not stable yet. But we have got an office block and we will have facilities, and it's something we're working towards. So it is something we want to do. It's just not something we've got on the radar just now.
To come, excitement to come. That sounds great. James, anything from BAE?
Yeah, so we obviously do support work experiences here at Brough at the moment. So we are looking at it this year. Again, it's applications via the corporate website. If you go on there at the moment, hours aren't on there. I'm not expecting hours to go live until around about the 1st of April. So from there, they should be on there available to book, because we're looking at probably July to actually run those events.
Great. Angela, anything from you?
Yeah, we do have some availability for work experience, but we find that we struggle with a whole week depending on the person and what they want to do. So if you do know someone that works in our business, ask them to reach out to the people team. We don't advertise it, or else we'd be inundated, unfortunately.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you all. Any more questions at all while I go through the next bit? Do feel free to put them in the chat, but you will see on your screen now there is a QR code. We'd really love to hear your feedback from tonight's session. What was useful for you? Maybe any additional feedback of anything you'd like in a follow-up. Obviously, as I said, we can share the recording and the slides. That's no problem at all. But if there's anything else that you would have liked to hear about this evening from our employers that you didn't, then please do scan the QR code, and that's really helpful for us in terms of planning future events. So I'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to complete that before I move on to the next slide. And obviously feel free to keep your questions coming in if you do have any.
While we're waiting, do you want me to answer the cyber question?
Please, that would be great. Yes, I just noticed that one. Please, that would be great.
Yeah, so cyber apprenticeships are sort of two different types. So they are actually one of the specialisms within the DTS one that I mentioned. So at the moment, I think if you look on our website, they are available at Warton Salisbury, so our sister site in Lancashire, and in Christchurch down south. Submarines, or sort of the maritime end, also have them as part of some of their programs as well. So I know there is a cyber one available in submarines at Barrow-in-Furness, and there is also one out of Portsmouth Naval Base as well.
Fantastic, thank you. I will put that back up, the QR code, shortly whenever we've gone through all the slides, but hopefully some of you have been able to fill that out, and thank you so much for doing so. So I guess what's next then? So hopefully you found today's session really useful. Hopefully it gave you a bit of an insight into the apprenticeship opportunities within the local area, and also some hints and tips from apprentices, but also from the early careers teams that are working with them. So what's next then, and what can, I guess, Pathway potentially support with? So we would really encourage your son or daughter to register a Pathway CTM as a student by way of either scanning the QR code on the screen or by visiting pathwayctm.com/register. That is where they'll be able to get all the information about lots of different events that we run, work experience. And I know somebody was asking about work experience. We do lots of virtual work experience for people who can maybe struggle with transport or maybe live rurally. But we also have things in the local community as well with different employers. So do have a look at that. You yourself can also sign up as a parent to help better support your child with their post-school choices. There's lots of different resources on there for parents around the apprenticeship route and coaching your child through application processes and things like that. And of course, it's all absolutely free to sign up. So we'd recommend that you do that as well. You can follow us on social media at pathwayctm.com. We share lots of our events on there, including probably tonight's as well, which will be great. And we also will broadcast live from lots of our events. Your son or daughter can also sign up for our employer events to either meet them in person or virtually. There'll be lots of different opportunities, career opportunities on our website. We work with over 150 employers and all of their opportunities are always displayed on our website, so they can filter by location but also by kind of industry, whatever they're looking for, and they can find everything there. We also have a podcast, which is quite, 2024 of us. So you can come listen to the podcast, either yourself or your child. You'll find it on any of your podcast, kind of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And it's really delving into things like university versus apprenticeships, working in the tech space, engineering, all those kind of things. So do have a look at that. And if your son or daughter needs some support or needs some one-to-one mentoring, we also offer that for free. So you can get in touch for support for your student by emailing student@pathwayctm.com. One of our team will come back to you. We usually schedule a mentoring call either that week or the week after. And we have a great student support team who work evenings and weekends to help support that. So it won't be during school hours. So your son or daughter can avail of that. And I guess all that's left to say is a little bit about our £1,000 giveaway. So if your child is interested in signing up, they do have a chance of winning £1,000 before Easter. So again, they can sign up on the website and they'll automatically be entered into that draw. And obviously, goes without saying, big thank you to all of you for taking some time out of your evening to join tonight. Thank you to all of our panelists and all of our wonderful employers. If anyone does have any additional questions for any of our employers, I know I did share an email earlier today and over the weeks kind of reminding you about the Zoom link, so you can come back to me on there. I will share the recording with the Careers Hub as well, and I'm happy to circulate that to anyone who would like it. But thank you so much for your time and have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank you, Liz. I think that's everyone out, Lucy. I think we're all good now.
Perfect. Thank you, Emma. Brilliant again. really good. And thank you if there's any employers still on the call. I think for me, what was really, really good tonight was the interaction and the questions from the
it's great.
spectators or audience. And some really key information there that hopefully those people be able to take away. Obviously, we've got the recording, so we can pop that on our website.